Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're continuing our 2022 list series videos with the top 10 board games from 2022 that I missed. I hope that this gives you some context for the other videos that I'm doing in the series, because these games I have not tried yet because one, they either haven't delivered and probably gonna have to wait until 2023 before they eventually do, or they're games that I wanted to try first before I purchase them for the library. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already yet, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about the top 10 board games from 2022 that I missed. We're going to start off with number 10 here. This is Weather Machine, where you play as the assistants to this mad scientist who has created the titular weather machine. They're going to be creating all of this weather out into the world, and it's up to you to not only research what's happening in the lab and publish different information, get funding for your projects here, but also combat these terrible weather atrocities that are hitting the entire world. The theming of this game is the thing that I find the most exciting about it, as you are playing something very similar to something like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where you have this crazy machine that's going haywire, and it's up to you to fix the damage that's being caused by it. But every time something happens, a new problem will come up. It's also a Vitala Certa design, which means that the mechanisms are going to be interconnected, giving you chains of events and actions that punctuate and permeate the entire experience and affect every aspect of the entire design. The reason this one's a bit lower on the list here at the number 10 spot is because it has been receiving some mixed reviews, with some people saying it is their favorite of the entire Lacerda design pedigree, and others saying that it's one they don't enjoy. That being said, I'm still excited to try this one, as it has a theme I am interested in, and it's one I am excited for in general. So that is my number 10, Weather Machine. My number 9 goes to Aeon Trespass Odyssey. This game in particular is all about Greek mythology combined with a settlement boss battling game like Kingdom Death Monster. You're going to be taking your characters, fighting these giant creatures, and then using resources from those fights to build up that settlement. It adds a couple of new things, though, to the mix. First thing it's going to have is an Argo phase, where you actually have a boat that you'll be sailing around and doing some 7th continent style exploration on this large map. It's also going to introduce a lot of new cooperation aspects, where you're going to be able to successively attack the same areas to get additional bonuses. Think of it like there's a chink in somebody's armor that one of your friends makes, and then the other person is able to exploit that weakness that you've created to do even more damage. I'm excited to see how this plays into the cooperation aspect and its new take on the boss battling genre. Now, this game has been in development for quite some time, but I think that the theming here is going to stand out and make it something exciting, where you'll have this familiar setting with the Greek gods, but now you'll also have this new, completely different art style as well as lore that's going to be introduced to the game as well. Now, this game was actually supposed to be here already. I thought it was actually arriving yesterday by the time of recording, but it was actually a different shipment that eventually came in that day, so this one is still out there somewhere, and who knows when it's going to be here. I'd even set aside time to learn this game and put that dedicated time into it so I could put it on these best of 2022 lists, but it missed it, and that is unfortunate because I just gotta wait a little bit longer for this one. But overall, I am excited for this in general. I love these giant boss battling style games. They make it so that a campaign like this is manageable, as you have clear spots where you're able to play, stop, and I think that this one is going to do it well with this theming of that Greek mythology. Excited to try this one. That is my number 9, Aeon's Trespass Odyssey. My number 8 goes to Green Team Wins, and I'm always in the mood for a cool party game, and I'm hoping that Green Team Wins fits the bill. This is a game that's all about groupthink, where you're going to be answering these prompts, and then based on your answers, you're trying to get into the majority, so you want to be the person who's writing the most common thing amongst everybody in the group. If you do that, you get to join the green team, you'll get some points, and if you're able to stay on the green team, you get even more points. It sounds simple in concept, so I'm curious to see how it plays in practice, but this game was actually supposed to already be here. There was actually a stocking issue 2 weeks ago. I got a stocking error that said that this one was not going to be in the shipment that I had ordered, and it was super frustrating because I had already basically put all of these orders in to arrive, and they just said, hey, we'll refund you for this, which is sad because I wanted to actually try this game out. So I'm not going to get a chance to play it this year, but it is one that I'm excited to try next year. I love these small party games that are easy to learn and easy to play, and it's something that I think we don't have in our library yet, a game that has this groupthink idea. 2022 has been a great year for party games. It brought out Phantom Inc., which is one of my favorite party games in a long time, and I hope that Green Team Win is also a shining example of a fun, simple party game. So that is my number 8, Green Team Wins. My number 7 goes to Darkest Dungeon, the board game. Now, this is actually based off of a video game, so it's a video game adaptation of a dungeon crawling game. You have these short playtime sessions, which I'm all for in these experiences, that uses mechanisms and inspiration from the video game. Now, I'll be straight up with you. I know nothing about this video game. All I know is that it is super highly rated and people love it. This campaign did exceedingly well on Kickstarter, but it has been having some issues with the shipping crisis, which meant a lot of people backed out on it, and not a lot of people actually have it on their hands. Now, the reason that this in particular isn't in the library yet is we actually won a contest for this game. It wasn't one that I originally backed, and only after winning the contest did I have any interest in it, because I was like, oh, this is actually a pretty cool thing, because the IP was something that I had never heard of, honestly. But then I started looking into it, and it sounded like something to be excited for. So we actually won a Dice Tower contest for this a while ago, and it has not arrived. So I did reach out to them to see if we could get our copy, because I'm seeing that Mythic Games has this now for sale on their website. So hopefully we're able to get one of those in and be able to review it soon. But overall, I am excited for this one. It looks like it has a cool foundation, and the people who are playing it are enjoying it. So I hope to be one of those as well. So that's my number 7, Darkest Dungeon, the board game. My number 6 is going to Flamecraft, and this is 100% entirely because of Corinne, the super blonde nerd. Go take a look at her channel. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description below. We do a lot of these collaboration videos where we talk about games that we've been playing, and she actually played this one for 2 weeks straight, I guess 4 weeks straight because of the way we do our schedules, and she has consistently enjoyed it. And it was one that I thought would be completely non-variable and would outstay its welcome based on the gameplay that I have been reading about it. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself here. If you're curious what Flamecraft is, this is a game where you play as these villagers in a small little community, and you are using dragons to help you out. And these dragons are not the vicious kind. They are using their powers in order to run the different shops. For example, if you use fire dragons here, you can use them in one of the shops that's going to be cooking. You have these characters that are magical, maybe creating gems. You're going to have not only the shops that you're going to be visiting, but the dragons themselves will actually slide underneath the shops, giving them extra things to create when you visit them. So it's a game where your worker spots on the board are going to be being built up over the game, and you're going to be using those spots to gain resources, fulfill contracts, and you'll also have some endgame scoring criteria that you're trying to satisfy as well. The standard edition by itself features this lovely artwork, but there's also a deluxe edition that uses metal coins and miniatures. The entire production on this one is amazing. And when I initially looked at this game, that's all I thought that it was. I thought it was just going to be a pretty game with a weak game underneath. So I was very apprehensive on the purchase, and I looked into the rules for it because I thought that if this was a pretty game that also had the gameplay to back it up, then this would be a no-brainer back. But I was not that impressed with what I saw when I was looking at the how to play videos. All that being said, Corinne is standing by this game, saying it truly is an awesome, welcoming game, and I'm in the mood always to look for amazing, welcoming games, and if it's a game that I can enjoy as well and bring out quite a bit, I'm into it. So that is Flamecraft, my number 6. Gotta give this one a try. My number 5 goes to Frosthaven. This is in that pile of games that should be here, but for some reason they're not yet. Frosthaven is a giant dungeon crawling game set in the frozen landscape of Frosthaven, north of Gloomhaven. It's based off of the Gloomhaven system, where you're going to be using these action cards to move your characters around a board, but it also introduces a settlement phase, similar to something like Anne's Trespass Odyssey or Kingdom Death Monster. You'll take your characters and take them from scenario to scenario, using that hand of action cards as not only your actions, but also your stamina, changing up your different attacks with your modifier deck that you'll also be able to customize on different scenarios that are built up of all of these different overlay tiles. You'll have so many different enemies that you can choose from that will all activate differently based on their different ability decks here. And now you have a new mechanism here called the loot deck, where you're going to get your materials that you'll use to build up your settlement. So this seems like it's just completely the same mechanics-wise for the combat, the scenarios from Gloomhaven, which is awesome. So you can go into it if you know that game, or if you've played Jaws of the Lion, you're ready to play and ready to experience it, but it has the settlement building of one of these larger campaign games that has the lasting improvements. I'm excited to see what the Frosthaven setting does with these settlements. Is it going to be something like a survival game where you want to build certain buildings? I've been playing a lot of Frostpunk lately, and is it going to have something like that where you need to build this food thing to make sure that everybody is fed in your settlement? Are you going to need to heat things up? I don't know anything about this because I want to be sure that I am spoiler free. I just know that it's in this brand new setting, and I am excited to be in it. So that is Frosthaven, an amazing experience, I'm sure, based off of what I've played of Gloomhaven. Let's get started. Ooh, I'm so excited for Frosthaven. And it's got that foreteller app as well. I love the narration in these games. My number 5, Frosthaven. My number 4 goes to Woodcraft. This is a Delicious Games production, a company that's made some of my favorite titles, including Underwater Cities, as well as Praga Caput Regni. This is another Vladimir Suchy co-design with Ross Arnold, who are introducing us to a contract fulfillment game with a quaint theme that also has in its central area here an incentive wheel system. We saw this in Praga Caput Regni, where the more of an action is taken, you'll actually pluck it off the board, put it to the far left, and it's going to be less enticing to take that. This is going to bolster every single action in the game that is chosen less frequently, which means that at certain points, every action is going to have a reason to take it, and I love that, where your choices are just getting better as time goes on. Oh, I'm so excited to try this one. There are some cool abilities and powers that you can also take for different characters, and I'm curious to see what Delicious Games does with something that revolves around contract fulfillment. I think contract fulfillment can be exciting when done correctly, and I hope that Woodcraft proves to be an exciting one. Now, this is one that I just have not had the chance to order yet. It's been out of stock anywhere that I've been able to find, but it's one that as soon as I get a chance, I will definitely be ordering a copy for the library. So that is number 4, Woodcraft. My number 3 goes to Ready, Set, Bet, and this is a real-time racing game where you are going to be playing at a horse track and making bets as the game is actually happening. So in real time, you're getting money, making bets, cashing out. Whew! What a raucous this sounds. I love horse racing, or in some cases, camel racing games. Shout out to Camel Up, best one there is. And I hope that this one fills a niche with that real-time element. And that being said, that's one of the reasons that I haven't played it yet, is because I want to play a copy of this before I do end up purchasing it. Real-time games are so hit and miss, it's almost impossible to determine if you're going to like one before you actually play it and feel the experience wash over you as it's actually happening. And I find them sometimes a little bit of an issue to teach. So some people have a hard time figuring out what's going on because they actually have to perform in the moment. So I'm curious to see where this falls in that spot on not only the teach, but also the actual enjoyment. I'm going to give another shout out to my friend Dan over at Chairman of the Board, who does Corporate Cardboard with me. He did a review on this game where he was saying that the first initial impression of this game was incredible, something that he was excited to go back to. And then he told me that after he had played it that one time, it immediately dropped for him. So I'm curious to hear if that's a phenomenon that I'm going to experience, and I hope that it's not the case. I want to be impressed with this one because it sounds like it's a new take on this genre that I already love so much. So that is my number 3, Ready, Set, Bet. My number 2 goes to Atiwa, the new Uwe Rosenberg game set in Ghana. You play as farmers who are going to be using the guano from the fruit bats and coexisting with your environment to cultivate the best farming community. It's a worker placement game at heart where you're playing out into a central board, but you're also going to be able to take different pieces and place them into your own farm area. They have these cards that overlap each other and they're going to be able to gain resources, and you can even put your bat and meeples onto these different cards to make them more efficient. I'm excited to see how this layering of the farm changes up the standard farming systems that you see in the Uwe Rosenberg games. Hallertau was innovated with its crop rotation mechanism, and I hope that Atiwa is a step in that direction as well. The one thing I'm a little apprehensive about is the fact that some of the actions seem to be similar with not a lot of huge variance aside from where the symbols are on the cards, but maybe I'll be proved wrong. I haven't played it yet, so it's one that I am excited to try. Now, this one is actually on an order already. I did an order from Lookout spiel where they had Atiwa as well as some Hollytow promos, and then Tybor the Builder I also threw in there as well because I hadn't tried that one yet. So that will be here eventually, and I cannot wait to give it a try. Always excited for these. Oranienburg Canal and Atiwa are both looking to be amazing productions with these new fresh mechanisms, but still that Uwe experience at their heart. And that's my number 2. Atiwa. And that brings us to my number 1 game that I missed in 2022. This is Guards of Atlantis 2. Now this is a MOBA tabletop style game where you're going to be playing as a team of champions, sending your champions out to defeat your opponents. Now I don't actually know how to play this game because I haven't tried it yet, but the idea I imagine is similar to other MOBA games where you're sending down characters through lanes, attacking the opponent's minions, and either trying to blow up a base or defeat the enemy a certain amount of times. You're going to be using your own powers and abilities that you get to level up as you play, and doing your best to coordinate with your team in order to obtain a victory. Now, the entire MOBA style genre of games is one that I love. Cloudspire, the feeling that I get when I play Ascension Tactics, and there are even more that are out there that I'm always interested to play. But this one seems to do something special in making itself approachable, but also a huge emphasis and focus on team play, where this game can be played at 2, 4, 6, and I think it even plays up to 8. Each character grabs their dashboards. They'll be sending out their characters using their own special action cards that are unique to their characters, and so you have to figure out how to not only play your character, but be ready to interact with all of the enemy's characters. I love this concept of the MOBA combat, and according to reviews that this one has received, it does it the greatest. Now, the reason that I haven't purchased it yet, I did see a couple on the aftermarket hiked up quite a bit, is twofold. The first one is I want to give this one a try first, because it is a team-based game, which is a hard sell for a lot of people. You got to make sure that you can actually get this played and tabled and see if people are going to be able to buy in for an experience like that. Not a lot of people like team games, and sometimes it can bog down the experience having a team-based game because all that communication is going to slow down turns a lot of the times. And I have found that with a lot of team-based stuff, Concordia Venus almost doubled the play length of Concordia, which is insane. So something to be aware of when you play team-based games. But the other reason that I'm thinking I'm going to wait on this and save on the price is they are actually going to be running a new Kickstarter here in the next couple of months, that it's going to be a reprint for the game as well as introduce more expansions. If I get a chance to play this beforehand, I'll probably try to find a copy of the base game and then get all the expansion content later, and that way I can enjoy that, and then when the new stuff arrives, I'll have more stuff to dig into then. But I think that this game in general looks right up my alley. Look at these character designs, each with their own unique deck of action cards. Oh, I'm so excited to play this one. And the concept of just champions with special abilities and powers, I'm going to shout out Dan again. We actually talked about this on Chairman on the Corporate Cardboard episode that we recently did, and he said that he was not a big fan of this game because there were so many different powers and abilities that everybody was getting, and that made me think that I'm actually going to like this one. He and I have some different opinions on a lot of things, especially when it comes to this more American style of game with the randomness and special powers and abilities everywhere, but it looks like this one actually has no luck or randomness, just different powers and abilities that you have to think about as you play. I love this customization that you can get from these action cards, the different feel and flavors of the champions, and my gosh, we're still scrolling. There are so many champions that you can pick from. I cannot wait to try this one, and as soon as I get an opportunity, I will. That is my number 1, Guards of Atlantis 2. And that's it. Those are my top 10 board games from 2022 that I've missed, and I cannot wait to play. What games are you excited to play from 2022 that you haven't had a chance to play yet? And what do you think of my list? Do you agree with any of these games that are on here? Are any of these games ones that you're excited to play? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong